Okay, all right. So, hello and good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. My name is 𝘉𝘠𝘠𝘕𝘠 and I'm your host and moderator for today's webinar. I'll start by introducing myself. I am a founder at South Asia Young Women in Water, SAVI, which is a community dedicated to empowering young women leaders across South Asia who are working in water sector by helping them in advocacy, collaboration, and innovation. We have a strong focus on equitable representation, and SAVI strives to connect South Asian youth with global water platforms. This particular series, the Empowering South Asian Youth in Global Water Platform series, this aims to highlighting the importance of youth representation from South Asia in global water forums, reflecting on their contributions and identifying ways to enhance inclusivity and diversity. This initiative is brought to you by South Asia Young Women in Water SAVI in collaboration with the ECH2O ECHO initiative of the World Bank Group. The Next Gen ECHO Talks webinars are part of the Utility of the Future Center of Excellence under the World Bank's Global Knowledge, Innovation, and Collaboration Framework. This platform empowers young professionals to contribute meaningfully to the water sector, encouraging them to propose thematic topics and host their own webinars on open social. While the World Bank has generously provided this platform, the views expressed in these webinars are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the World Bank or its partners. So welcome to today's webinar, which is Bridging Gaps, Challenges for South Asian Young Women in Global Climate Forums. This is the third and final session in our series of webinars under the title Empowering South Asian Youth in Global Water Platforms, Addressing Representation Gaps and Enhancing Engagement. For this webinar, we are slightly moving away from our thematic region of water and moving into the climate change space. So today we are going to focus on the unique challenges faced by young women from South Asia in securing representation at global climate events like COP29. Our conversation today will explore the systemic barriers, lessons learned, and actionable solutions to foster greater inclusivity for young women in these critical spaces. I'm delighted to introduce our distinguished panelists who bring a wealth of experience and diverse perspectives to these discussions. And all our panelists have been to COP29 in person in Baku, Azerbaijan. Our first panelist, Marwa Alam Safaf, she is from Afghanistan and is a passionate climate advocate and environmentalist. Marwa serves as the National Climate Adaptation Officer at the Aga Khan Foundation and is also the founder and CEO of the Climate and Environment Youth Initiative in Afghanistan. She advocates for youth climate action and sustainability. Marwa was a delegate at COP19 in Baku and was an observer at COP29. She brings a unique perspective as Afghanistan re-entered the global climate negotiation space this year. Marwa is a graduate of Kabul University and is deeply committed to amplifying youth voices in climate discussions, especially from conflict-affected regions. Very warm welcome to you, Marwa. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm aware that electricity issues in Kabul currently, and despite that, you have agreed to be present here today in this webinar, and I'm extremely grateful to you, very thankful to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind introduction. Let me just be sure that you have my voice. Do you have my voice?
Slightly, I mean,
Okay.
very low.
I'm so sorry because we don't have proper internet connection, specifically during the night. So I will do my best to speak a little bit slower that you can catch what I'm saying. So first, thank you so much for inviting me in this important event, and also thank you for your very kind introduction. And I'm very happy to be part of this discussion.
Thank you so much. Our second panelist is Mahanur Rashid from Pakistan. Mahanur is a staunch advocate for climate change and gender equality. As a chairperson of the Children and Youth Advisory Board on Climate Change at Climate Forward Pakistan, Mahanur actively contributes to UNFCCC processes, advocating for gender and youth empowerment. She has participated in numerous international forums, including COP29, and is deeply engaged in advancing the agenda on gender and action for climate empowerment. Her dedication to ensuring gender responsive climate action brings a critical voice to today's discussion. Thank you for joining us, Manur. I understand there are internet challenges in Pakistan as well, and thank you so much for joining us despite all the challenges that you are facing. We are really grateful.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Moving on, our final panelist is Asmita Rawat from Nepal. Asmita is an environmentalist and she is a first generation college graduate from Mugu, Nepal. Asmita has a bachelor's degree in forestry and she has extensive experience in climate resilience, having developed local disaster and climate resilience plans and also contributed to Nepal's BPOD portal. She also served as Youth Sounding Board Coordinator for the EU delegation to Nepal, amplifying youth perspective and policy development. Currently, Asmita is a global ambassador for Youth for Nature, and her work is at the nexus of climate and nature, which underscores the critical need for grassroots representation at global forums. Welcome, Asmita.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Meghna. I'm really excited to be here and to be able to share my perspective with all of you.
Thank you so much. And of course, we are honored to have you all to have these incredible panelists with us today. Their diverse experiences and insights will help shed light on the systemic barriers faced by young South Asian women in climate governance and the actionable steps needed to ensure inclusivity. So let's dive into today's discussion. First, I think I'll come to Marwa. Marwa, I would like to first start with you. And I want to understand that, with Afghanistan's return to the climate negotiation space at COP29, it was a significant moment. And as a delegate, did you feel prepared to navigate the complex landscape of climate negotiations? And I would like to understand what kind of training or support, if any, did you receive beforehand, and how did that impact your ability to advocate effectively?
Thank you so much for your kind question. So let me just check. Yeah. So for answering this question, I need to clarify something, which is, of course, Afghanistan still did not have an official delegation at COP29. So the representative of the facto authority or guest of the host country, not the real delegation. And Afghanistan.
I'm just going to stop you here because your audio is not very clear. So if you can speak a little bit louder, I think it will.
Okay. Perfect. I will speak a little bit louder. So Afghanistan, many people thinking that Afghanistan was part of real delegation in the scope, but actually Afghanistan did not have an official delegation at COP29, and the representative of the east of the country, and Afghanistan has only
we are losing your voice, Marwa. I'm very sorry to interrupt, but
it's okay. Let me just.
this is a very important information that we want to learn, and we are not able to hear that. So.
Maybe you
Please
can
do not.
join, you can ask questions from our another panelist, and I will try. Yeah, soon, but I will put my camera and it will help us.
We are really not able
Now,
to.
yeah. Let me just
Okay, I really want. I think while Marwa.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back, and so sorry. So I think now I have a proper voice. So let me just use my voice instead of my own picture. And sorry for this because we don't have proper internet connection. So let me just start from the beginning. So you ask about the Afghanistan delegation in this conference. So unfortunately, Afghanistan did not have an official delegation even in this year, COP29, and the representative of de facto authority, they were just the guests of the host country, which was of course Azerbaijan. But we had five observers from local organization of Afghanistan, those organizations that they work on the ground in Afghanistan. And while I participated as a delegate for the Conference of Youth, but I was part of the UN overflow, not real delegation at COP29. And although I attend various panels as a panelist and raise awareness about Afghanistan circumstances, and also specifically I raise awareness how Afghanistan is impacted by climate change. But unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the official and real negotiation process, which I hope next year we will be part of official negotiation process. So because I was the only delegate for conference of party, which is held before the conference of youth, which is held before conference of party. So it was also an important moment for us to amplify the voices of Afghan youth and also our community, and also to show that we are ready to unite with the rest of the globe for climate justice and also for sustainable action. So at COP29, I participated in several impactful discussions and events, but I wasn't an official negotiator, and we didn't have any negotiator at COP29. When it's come to preparation, of course, before COP29, I had a preparation, particularly because this scope was about finance. Of course, I deepened my understanding about climate finance and also adaptation, because what I'm working here on the ground, my focus is adaptation. So I had extensive preparation for climate finance and adaptation negotiations, and my goal was to influence negotiator from the global south, like a negotiator from India, Pakistan, and so on, to put pressure on the global north to take the right decision, because I was not a real negotiator. So another ways that we can really make a difference is to influence other or real negotiator at COP. So before COP, I underwent extensive preparation. For example, I completed the Global Youth Climate Training, two training from a Global Youth program, which was organized by University of Oxford and also Global Youth Coalition. I also finished the Climate Finance Academy and another training by World Bank to deepen my understanding about climate change, and also thematic topic which was related to COP29, of course, adaptation and finance. And it helped me a lot to know the process, because it was my first COP. And also I participated in some meeting before going to COP to learn how to negotiate during COP. Although I was not the real negotiator, but I just want to see how people, they negotiate for their countries, for their regions, or even vision for a global South. So also before attending to COP, I organized platforms like Afghanistan Local Conference of Youth and another training program for Afghan youth. And these two platforms helped me a lot to understand the needs, the perspective, the view, and priority of Afghan youth about climate change in Afghanistan. And also it helped me a lot to amplify their voices at the global stage. So participating in this kind of meeting, and even before a conference of party, I participated in many various national and international climate meetings, and all of them somehow were helpful to deepen my understanding of climate finance and global process, and help me to advocate effectively for my country, although I wasn't a part of the real negotiation, but at least we understand what is the process. And this scope was something like a class for us. And I think we learn a lot how to negotiate, how to push pressure on the global north, and how to expand network that can really help us in the long term. So maybe next scope will be more effective for me and more effective for my community. But this scope was the first step. I learned a lot, and many people who coming from Afghanistan, they learn a lot with, and we brought a lot of new experience back to Afghanistan. So yes, I had a lot of preparation, although I knew that I wasn't part of a real negotiation, but at least we should have enough information how the process is going on.
Thank you so much, Marwa. And before I lose you again, I think I will just jump to my second question.
Okay.
Straight away to you. Sorry, I'm breaking the pattern that I usually follow, because I'm very happy that I finally got your voice. So it's very good to know that your preparations were so solid, and it's equally inspiring. And I really hope that your participation next year will be more effective, and
Yeah.
it will bring the results, the kind of results that we are hoping to see in the interest of Afghanistan. But however, not to mention that already your participation at COP29 as a young Afghan woman is a powerful statement. In a country where women are denied fundamental rights like education and freedom, this is a
Mm-hmm.
massively strong statement. So for millions of Afghan girls who are currently deprived of access to education and a future,
Mm-hmm.
your presence on such a global on a global stage is a rare beacon of hope, I believe. So, what
Mm-hmm.
message do you think your participation sends to the world, and how can international forums like COP amplify the
Mm-hmm.
plight of Afghan women to push for tangible global actions? Do you believe that your
Mm-hmm.
representation has also emphasized the critical need for educated and qualified women to contribute meaningfully to Afghanistan's nation building
Mm-hmm.
efforts, and challenge the current narrative about women's roles in shaping the country?
Mm-hmm. Of course, it's a very, very meaningful question, and I'm very happy to respond this question with lots of emotion. So yes, my participation at the scope and before that conference of youth, as a young Afghan woman who coming from Kabul, was more than just a representation for me. It was a statement of resilience and determination of Afghan women, and it's highlighted the strength that we Afghan women and youth have, despite facing like unmanageable challenges that we have in Afghanistan. But it shows that we continue to fight for a future, for a better future, where we can contribute to to our communities and even beyond of our communities. So I think for many girls living inside Afghanistan right now, my presence on this global stage is a reminder that their dreams are matters and their voices can can and also must be heard, and even when circumstances seems impossible. Because when I dreamed about joining COP29 this year, it was look like impossible. But I think all we need as Afghan women and any women anywhere of the globe, that they have lot of problems, please believe on yourself, try very hard and never give up, because with determination and resilience you will make a difference. So my presence also to the world send a clear message, and it was that Afghan youth and women are not victims, because many people just thinking that we are a victim of circumstances in Afghanistan, but they have to see us in another picture as well. We are change makers who can shape our country's future when they give us the chance. So I think for international firms like COP or KOI, they have a responsibility to amplify the voices of everyone, but most importantly, the voice of the more impacted communities and those who have a lot of struggling. So our present is not as an abstract issue, but it should be like a call to action. And by advocating for inclusion and more opportunities, this kind of platform, I'm sure they can press for tangible changes that goes beyond of the word. So my presentation representation and also other youth representation from Afghanistan shows the importance of education, women, and also the qualified women in building our nation. So we need those kind of educated and qualified women to take responsibility for making resilience in their community. When women, for example, excluded, so the country loses half of its potential, because we are part of the nation, and it's limit the progress of that specific country or nation. But when women are included, the country can unlock their full potential, and they can benefit from diverse perspective, diverse skills and talent, because everyone bring unique skill, unique talent and perspective on the table. So I think this leads to when we include women, it will help us to make a stronger communities. We can help our community to progress and go to and make our country more sustainable. So I think when we include women, we ensure that solution address the need of everyone, an entire population. Because when I started working in this sector, I find out that everyone has different needs. For example, the need of a child, the need of a youth, the need of the farmer, the need of the mountainous community is totally different from another person who's living in an urban area. So the need of women and men is totally different. And when we include everyone in the table of decision making, we sure that we address the need of everyone, and it will make the entire nation resilient to the impact of climate change. So I think our voice at COP is not just like, for me, for example, my voice at COP was not just mine. To be honest, it carries the dreams and hope of million Afghan girls and women who are capable, they are brilliant, and they are eager to contribute to their nation. And also they are committed to make a sustainable future for Afghanistan and even beyond of Afghanistan, but they don't have enough opportunity. I was fortunate enough to have this opportunity. First, I was very fortunate to complete my education. And then I was fortunate enough to find the proper job, the job that I always dreamed about it. And then I had the opportunity to use the networks and the things that God gave me to use them for making difference in my society. So yes, of course, if we have more educated women, more qualified women in Afghanistan, the history of Afghanistan will be totally different, because everyone can make a difference on their own level. And I think women have more power, and they are more committed to bringing more sustainable society and greener society to the world. So yes, their inclusion is very, very, very important.
Absolutely right, Marwa. And we couldn't be prouder of you, to be very honest. We are, as a
Thank you so much.
as a fellow sister, I'm very, very proud of what you have brought to the table and what you have brought to the world stage. Um,
Thank you so much.
you have slightly shed light on the fact that that the lived experiences are varied,
Hmm.
and all experiences hold a potential and hold a place at the table, or must hold a place at the table. So
Yeah, must.
yes, I think I'll next go to the Himalayan nation of Nepal, which also falls in a earthquake-prone area. So, Asmita, I'll come to you. This year observed the highest number of participants at any COP. Did you notice a spike in number of youth representation from Nepal, matching the overall increase in participation at COP? And were there enough opportunities for the voices of youth and women to be heard meaningfully, or did it just feel like tokenism?
Yes, indeed, there was a lot of youth Nepali delegates at this COP because I could hear everyone speaking in Nepali whenever I used to like pass across the hall. So definitely, I did see an increased number of youth participation during the COP this year, and it truly reflects a broader trend of like increased youth engagement worldwide, not just in conferences like COP, but in any other COP. And I feel like the energy, the passion that the young people bring is so fresh and it's so refreshing. And even like talking to them just like really hypes you up and makes your day so much better. And I do feel like even though quantity wise there is an increase in number, but quality wise I feel like we're still lacking behind. And the real challenge lies beyond just our mere participation, and also like ensuring how we can make genuine and impactful engagement. Um, in my case, what I saw was it's in that youth were engaged just for the visibility, or almost is a form of tokenism rather than being truly integrated into the decision-making process. And I feel like there was a very visible segregation between youth spaces and the mainstream event, where a lot of the youth-led session were held in parallel tracks or like in side events, where the senior policymakers could not like come and interact with us. So it did feel like our voices were being confined to a space where the people who are in the decision-making tables could not hear to us. And that just felt really disappointing at some times. But I must say that there are like some spaces that people have created, like 𝘎𝑭𝑰𝑒 and many youth organization, which is really like a light at the end of the tunnel. And what they were doing, like having constant consultations with us, and also like helping to navigate the complexities that CUP brings and how overwhelming it can be for the young people. And also like having debrief sessions and also amplifying our voices, I think really helped. But I think yet, even if we do a lot of things, there is still gap. And I feel like there are like few things that we can do from our side, like having a concrete mechanism to track like how the youth are contributing, because we are saying, we have got a space and it's really nice, but we also want to see the impact at the same time. We want to see transparency, and we want to have the constant feedback loop, structured follow-up to ensure that our voices and our commitments have been translated into actions. And I feel like one of the greatest approach would be to include youth delegates into the national delegations, and not just as observers, but as like active contributors to negotiation teams, and allowing more impactful youth presence, and ensuring that our voices are like woven into the policy development. And it just feels like a starting point, but I think there is still a lot for youth spaces to explore. And also, having said that, I also want to highlight the fact that like gender inclusion is still like, it still feels like such a new concept to everyone. Like COP have constantly failed the inclusion of the woman in COP presidency. And just this year, only like there's only 34% of national delegates were women, and just like 78 females were the head of state or government. And no COP since like 2008 had hit the gender representation, even with a lot of gender action plan, gender responsive just transition. We have all these policies at hand, but and it also feels like it's not just a global South issue. Even in global North, like women are still deprived of getting equal representation in decision making, and I think it's deeply rooted patriarchy everywhere. And I just feel like it should go beyond COP, and it should be like inclusivity has to be like more than just a talking point, and it's something that we all need to practice in our daily lives. And we need to have more spaces where women, especially young women, feel empowered to lead and share their perspective. And also, like, we need more feminine men on our side. Without men, we cannot do this, and also all the genders. So it's just like finally, it's all about like coming in solidarity to achieve the green future.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, Asmita, that solidarity is the need of the hour. But coming to our gender expert of the panel, Mahanur, I'd like to know what were some of the fundamental challenges that you, as a young woman from Pakistan, faced in getting your participation in COP29 confirmed. Why don't you take us through your journey of obtaining the badge and securing funding and all that goes into getting a place at COP, and how do you think that these barriers uniquely affect women from South Asia compared to their counterparts in global North?
Yep. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd really, really like to appreciate my fellow panelist Marva for the amazing, amazing work that she has done, and Asmita as well for all the perspectives that she has brought. And yes, I found so many fellows from Nepal. I was really inspired because I also am from the Himalayas. So, having that common space to share those common ideas. Well, uh, well, about your question, for example, like in my experience, COP28 was relatively easy because like I got into a competition and I won the competition, and then it was so easy that everything was being done. So I didn't really had to navigate all of those issues. But when it came to COP29, one of the major issues that came forward was that this time around, the UNFCCC Secretariat thought that it would be a good idea to give more badges to Global South and lesser to Global North, as if it would address the inequality in the numbers. So what it actually did, and it showed up, was like the people from Global South, like people like me, often we even rely on the badges of Global North because those organizations, the youth organizations, for example, the civil society is more willing to lend those badges to us as compared to the organizations in our countries. And that is exactly what happened. So the people that I was in contact with and I had thought, okay, maybe I can secure a badge from them, they told me that they had only received one badge. And so I had to like literally email every single organization in my country and even in the rest of the global south countries. And unfortunately, the response, as obvious, they said, no, we cannot. Some just ignored, and some even asked for money in exchange. Yeah, they were selling badges. So, this is like a general observation, but at the end of the day, we made a request. So, what this shows is that the UNFCCC, even the Secretariat, is not putting in enough effort to actually analyze that whatever the global north organizations are giving their badges to the people, they are actually from global south and they already have that data. So they actually need to put in the resource and the effort to actually check how can inclusivity be ensured, and it is not just a surface level plus minus thing that you can do and end up with the conclusion that okay, we have achieved inclusivity. So that is that. uh, Obviously, now systematically, if I cover these challenges, there is so much patriarchy. As a young person first, and then as a woman, there is nobody that is going to take me seriously, and that is the issue that I've faced. And then on top of that, when you tell them that, okay, you are an activist, they are like, oh, activist. They don't like that word. They don't, think that it is important enough. And so whether you're trying to get funding or you're trying to get the badge, it is really difficult to convince the people and to actually, make them listen to us that yes, we are the people that can make a difference, that need to be there on that table, and that you must help us to do that. But once again, that's not going to happen. The third issue is that what I've observed is that we often, when it comes to funding, we often are sending emails to UN agencies and so many INGOs and even local NGOs. In Pakistan, it's not really always possible to get funding from the local NGOs because they're like very limited on their budgets. So we often have to resort to INGOs and UN agencies. And what I have observed in this case is that most of the time, unfortunately, what they are trying to do is that they would, in order to achieve certain goals in their end of year report, so that they can, mention the words, they try to bring in like new people every year, and just by giving them money, they think, okay, they have done their job, and they don't care if what will happen or how will those similar people access the platform next year, or how is this process going to sustain itself, or how are you actually holistically empowering them. And this is what I feel most disappointed in, because these organizations are the ones that are doing a lot of work, are receiving the funding, and you expect them that, okay, they will support you. But at the end of the day, all they want is those photos so that they can put into their yearly report and they can show, okay, yes, they achieved sustainability. So these are like just the main major issues that I think, not all of them, but what we face like mostly from a South Asian perspective, you know? So yeah.
You have shed light on a very, very important aspect, Mahanur, which is sustainable inclusivity, which actually nobody thinks about. That, you have to have accountability in order to ensure that the inclusivity is sustained. You just cannot go on and on for the sake of numbers. And for that, it is very important that you have to ensure that the kind of people you are bringing on table are actually coming with an agenda and going back with something to give back to the society, to have certain impact in the society, and not just coming there to get photos clicked so that you can put it up on your report. That's an amazing point that you have put up. Asmita, I'll come to you. You have worked at the intersection of climate and disaster resilience, which I believe that gives you a unique perspective as someone who has not only studied disasters, but given that you come from Nepal, you have also lived through them. So, in forums like COP29, because now that we are talking about lived experience, uh, and at such forums where most decision makers in bodies like, loss and damage fund, which has come up in a big way since the last COP, and various disaster management mechanisms, they often approach these issues from a statistical or technical standpoint. So what difference in perspective do you, as someone from the Himalayan region, bring, a region that bears the brunt of global warming, and the Himalayas are often called the third pole of the world? So do you think that the COP29 discussions have adequately addressed the unique vulnerabilities of Himalayan nations like Nepal? And additionally, what critical changes do you believe need to be made in global disaster governance to ensure that voices from the front line, like those of youth and women from Nepal and other Himalayan nations, are heard and acted upon effectively?
Hmm. Thank you for such an insightful question. And I think during this COP, the issues of Himalaya were not at all taken into account as much as it should have been from my perspective, because I was really excited to see like the issues of Himalayan bring into the forefront. But it was really personally very disappointing for me to see no such issues or anything being talked about it. Maybe few want to maybe side events, but not as majorly as it should have been. And coming from Himalaya region and having worked with climate resilience, I think it has given me such a deep personal that just goes beyond data or policy jargon. And oftentimes, like climate change is such a personal topic for people like us, who I'm representing like vulnerable communities. It can be a very emotional topic. And I think it's not just a concept or issue that we're facing, and it's a daily challenge that affects our lives and livelihoods, not just that, but our cultures too. And when we talk about like climate change impacts at global forum like COP29, of course, like people are going to focus a lot on like statistic and technicalities because that's how negotiation goes. And while I think like data are like really crucial for like informed decision makings, it does not always capture the full picture or even the urgency of the matter, because for people it's just like some documents and negotiation and something to be signed on. And before I dive deep into like the issues of Himalayas, the third pole, it's like so interrelated, and it's like home to like 7,000 glacier, which is like direct water supply for like millions across the South Asia. And it's like a very critical basin for like Brahmaputra and Ganges. So you can see like how it's tied up with a lot of people and a lot of regions, and it will directly threaten the freshwater source for like 250 million people in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, and also like even more people in the downstream. And yet at COP, the unique challenges of like high altitude regions like Nepal are like really overshadowed by the discussion of a lot of other things, which is like really disheartening. And also because Nepal is a country where like disaster is happening so much more frequently, and it in very intense and severe way. So just like few months ago, golf in a village called Thame swept away like entire home and like disrupted like entire community. And just few months ago, Kathmandu saw very bad flood, which was around the festive season, which led to a lot of loss of life and also like travel chaos, and also at the same time like skyrocketing the prices of like flights. So it brings so many economical challenges to the people who are more vulnerable. So these new on-ground realities were not really brought up to the discussion. And it was really sad because Nepal has been consistently working in climate advocacy, especially for the Himalayan region, since 2009, when they started the Kala Pathar Declaration. And also Nepal has been doing the campaigns like Save Mountain and Hills and the Everest Dialogue at COP28, showcasing Nepal's commitment, and also the building all this momentum, and to have not been followed up at the other COP and just losing it somewhere, it just feels like all the work is done in vain. And also given the fact that in 2025, it is the UN declared it as the International Year of Glacier Preservation. I just felt like this COP29 would focus a lot on that, but it just remained not a lot of things were done. So I think personally, for me, it was a huge loss, a platform where we could have done a lot of things, and also given the fact that a lot of Nepali people were there, especially youth, which is promising. I do believe that even though we were not in the negotiation, we did play our part in like talking to people and advocating for what we think is right, and also showcasing how we are facing these issues. I do believe that it created a ripple effect, but also we need, at the same time, given the urgency of the matter, we need something more concrete. So I think we need more clearer pathway for like from the grassroots perspective to the high level discussion, how these issues will be foreshadowed there, and how the policies are accustomed to the local level. So I think this is the gap that we need to address. And I think at the end, true inclusivity would mean like integrating data-driven evidences with the frontline experiences of the HKS region into the global climate policies.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Asmita. And clearly, this feels like an opportunity missed that you have mentioned that the number of participation from the number of youth participation from Nepal was heartening this COP. And given that next year we are going to talk largely about glaciers, um, I really feel that this was an opportunity lost, and it was only because I feel that this was a myopic vision for COP, which has led to such an important opportunity being lost. And it means a lot for global South youth. For us, inclusion and inclusivity is not just numbers. We really have, like what you said, that I'm going to quote you on this, that vulnerable communities are living through disasters every day. For them, climate change is happening every day. It's not a annual event that takes place for 7 days, right?
Yeah.
They are living with it in and out every day, so it impacts them, and there's not sufficiently people are not talking about it. Even when Pakistan, I remember when the floods happened, everybody was so shocked because it actually took place at a place which was not, nobody had imagined that floods of this level will take place in Pakistan. So clearly we are heavily impacted by climate change, and you are giving platforms but to people, and there are numbers to show, but then what is it getting in return? Where are the impacts of such discussions, right? So I think I'll come to Mahanur. Mahanur, you have been actively advocating for gender and youth issues through the ACE negotiations, and which aim to promote education, awareness, and capacity building on climate action. And today we have spoken a lot regarding the lack of educational opportunities for Afghan women, and you actually coming at a position where both of these education, women, climate change rights, everything come on at an interjunction. So from your experience, I would like to know, do you think that these topics were sufficiently prioritized at COP29? And did you feel that your advocacy efforts were met with actionable support? Because from my experience, from our SEBI's experience, we have observed that in Pakistan, there is a lack of formal education system that offers technical courses on climate change and sustainability. That poses a significant challenge. As you know, youth often rely on scholarships from the noble global north to actually go to global north to gain an understanding of vulnerabilities that exist in their own country. So when you interact with youth from other countries, particularly those with robust educational systems in climate sciences and sustainability, do you notice differences in their grasp of the subject matter compared to youth from Pakistan? And do you believe that forums like COP29, what can they do to address these disparities and promote, as Asmita said, true inclusivity, not only in participation, but also in building equitable access to education and resources that empower youth to contribute effectively to climate action?
Yeah, so these are like, a lot of things that are intersecting over here. And as you talked about ACE was a success this year, fortunately. One year, the first week of COP29, you might have heard that it was extremely intense. And most of the things that we usually see happening in the second week were actually happening in the first week. And the success for ACE was that it actually got adopted. It was one of the texts that got adopted. And it got adopted with the terms of financial and technical support included into the text for the first time ever. So it was a win at the negotiation table. But obviously, it's just one small step because we really need a stronger text. We actually need to ensure that youth and indigenous people and vulnerable communities actually get included into that text. So it's a long journey. And if you ask me, for me, the biggest disappointment with regards to ACE in general is that Pakistan doesn't even have a negotiator upon the table. We don't have an ace focal point. We don't have an ace national strategy. So we are not even prioritizing it at this moment. And what we are missing out on is all of this that, ace will actually bring. And we won't have a person, a strategy to actually take benefit from that. And our people are the ones that are going to be at the losing side. Because what ACE inherently enables is that it helps people become a part of the action. It's like a bottom-up approach. You educate the people, you make them aware, you train them for the just transition that's going to happen, public participation, and you give them access to information, and that's from where you see systems change happen. And that is what's most disappointing for me. And when it comes to the COB itself, well, I do believe that, honestly speaking, this time around, I zoomed out and I just observed. I literally was an observer. I did not go into a lot of panels. I think so I didn't even attend a single side event this time around because I was just, mostly in the negotiation rooms, sitting there observing and doing my thing. And what I observed was that there were around 65,000 people were all in that venue, and there were so many things happening, and most of the people, they did not know what was happening, especially the young people. They don't have any clue of what is the right place to be at this moment. You have 12 days and you have to navigate amongst these 65,000 people, that where is your place to be. And what I see this is a failure, or maybe a deliberate attempt to distract the people. Because quite honestly, those pavilions, those side events that are happening, they are just like a science exhibition. And you can have them anytime around the year, right? But the negotiations are the real thing, and the young people need to be present in those rooms at least if they want to be at the table. So for me, it's like a huge distraction. And in order for what COP can do, maybe the secretariat can do, is provide that kind of capacity building sessions to these people. Or maybe even the country delegations can actually look up into the data that how many young people are going to attend COP this year from their country, and bring them on the platform and provide them that kind of capacity building as to what are they going to, what they should do, what is their country's position. Because I think that most of the time it is so fancy at COP that people get blinded. Honestly, the photo ops that we are talking about, taking pictures, grabbing badges, and grabbing, souvenirs and stuff like that. And that's not really helping. For me, it is not inclusivity. For me, it is not participation. For me, no matter how many women you add into the delegation, if they are not at the right place at the right time, then they are missing out. And Marva explained it like extremely beautifully, that when she got the opportunity, she saw that it was a privilege and that she had a responsibility upon her shoulders. So for me, on one side, when it is a responsibility of the government to engage the young people, I also believe that we, young people who are attending these venues and these conferences, it is a huge responsibility on our shoulders to make sure that we are making the best out of those 12 days. And we're not just running around, we're not just taking the pictures and doing stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, our people are dying. We are putting in a resource to go there, and we are not talking about that. We are not giving them the voice that they need. Most of the people in my country don't even know what this conference is about. But their life decisions are being made there. And so it is our responsibility, because first of all, we know, and then we have access. So, and the third thing that you asked, that when it comes to like the educational perspective, uh, in Pakistan, I'd say that the bigger issue is not that it is not a part of formal education, because it is at the primary level, and all the levels, they have started to add climate change. But the issue is that a huge population is out of schools. So even if you add it into the curriculum, how are you going to address those 33 million children that are not even attending schools, right? So that is where I believe a huge component that ACE, even we talked about that in the ACE dialogues and all these events that we having around ACE, that storytelling is really important. Climate change needs to be communicated in a way that it can actually relate to people because it is happening. Everybody is feeling it, everybody is noticing something is changing. Only what is needed is to build a connection, and then we can actually make the people do something about it. So for me, that is most mostly what concerns me. And when it comes to like comparing with the global north, yes, we do lag. We face the consequences when it like comes to accessing opportunities. But when it comes to advocacy, I've always seen, mostly seen, that the people coming in from global south are bringing in more stronger, more confrontational perspectives, and speaking out their hearts and showing their anger and discomfort, something which you will not always see from the people in global north. So there is this difference in advocacy and actually accessing the opportunities there. But yeah, there is need of a lot of capacity building. There is need of even us youth realizing what power do we hold, and why are we like, just ask yourself, why are you going to this conference? Why are you going to this conference? Seriously, like what are you going to do? How is this conference going to serve you, and how are you going to serve it? And if you don't find a satisfactory answer to that, don't go, because you're just like emitting carbon. So yeah.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful answer, Mahanur, and very insightful. I'm actually thinking that the kind of vision and the clear understanding that you have, only if people who are sitting in position of decision and position of authority, if they can have that vision, probably COPs will be more successful, because after 29 COPs, we are still going around touching the same topic. And it's like the cycle that goes on and on. We are discussing the same things every year. We get together and we talk about the same problems. There are no solutions anywhere. So wonderful insights and very poignant observations, Manur. I must congratulate you on that you have taken time out for during this COP not to engage in any other activity, but clearly understand what exactly COP means for you, and how you can contribute through your participation in COP, and what you can take back to Pakistan. Wonderful. I'm very happy to have you here to talk about it. Now we have almost we have overshot our time period, but I'll still open the floor in case if anybody has any question. Please feel free to raise your hand, and I can ask you to unmute, or I can unmute yourself. Um, yeah, if anybody has any questions. If not, then I will go with my own. Okay, great. So I think by the time people decide what to ask you, uh, maybe I will. This is like a open-ended question to both of you, Asmita and Manur. Um, I'll start with Manur first. Manur, what changes would you like to see in the COP processes to make it more inclusive and accessible for young women from Global South, while while making sure that there is extracted a certain impact out of these participation?
So there are a lot of things that need to be done. But one of the things that came out of my observation this time around COP29 was uh, that we actually, the countries and the young people, the governments and the young people, they need to understand. First of all, the government needs to understand that the young people's perspective is important. And the young people need to understand that we need to actually learn to communicate in the language which these governments and the cops can actually understand, right? Because we cannot keep on speaking in our language and then expect them to understand. Because I had so many conversations with executives this time around, and all of them were like, oh, you guys are so scary. Whenever we meet, you guys start shouting. And yes, it is a good thing. We must let them know that there is anger and frustration and that we have some problems with you. But at the same time, we need to be strategic in our communication. So, in order for that, I guess the main point would be that we need to build the capacity. We need to work on our capacities first of all, and then need to make sure that when we talk, we are talking with such a nuanced perspective that even the other person sitting on the other side of the table cannot deny us our right to sit on the table. And then you go to the government, and then needs to be this realization on part of the governments as well that okay, this is needed, and then they actually bring that young person on the negotiating table, because I have seen young people negotiate. For example, the negotiator from Switzerland, negotiator from Sweden, even the negotiator from Sri Lanka for ACE is a young person. And I've seen them do wonderful job. And so we need to set that example, and they need to be accommodating as well. So for me, inclusive participation would not be increasing the number of people that are able to access the venue. In fact, for me, equitable participation and inclusivity would be that how many women are actually sitting at that table and speaking up. And obviously, speaking up with their own tongue, not some other entity telling them what they need to say, what they need to feel, how they need to say it, and what not to say.
Very, very nice point, Mahanur, because this is something that even I have observed that many a times people go to these conferences and they kind of suddenly they are speaking in, and it is very evident that, there is some, lobbying going on or something is going on which has like kind of made them say certain statements which are so far from reality, but it sort of suits the tone of the conversation that is currently going on. So it is important to hold your truth, but while maintaining what you said, the language, it has to be strategic. Asmita, for you, what changes you think needs to be bring in COP in order to be more inclusive of, say, vulnerable communities? And like you said, that this time uh, there was a golden opportunity to discuss Himalayas and glaciers, but it was missed. Um, how do you think that in future such opportunities are not missed? What should COP and the secretariat and the organizers should make sure that such a thing does not repeat itself?
Okay, I think I just want to let one thing out of my chest, that whenever COP is organized, the food itself is not accessible. So, first of all, the organizers should know that people are coming from across the world and not everyone would be happy with the price. So, just at least make it average so that we have access to food. It's so hypocrite. It's so hypocrisy. Like they are talking about making everything just and equitable, but the food itself in the COP is not accessible. So maybe first start from there. And I think the way that we miss this opportunity is because we work in silos, still, because we don't know who is going. And I was like surprised to see my friends that, oh my God, you're here. So I think we need to have that pre-consultation when we are in our country and have that kind of strategy, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? So maybe just a meeting or even a pre-consultation or just like meeting online, anything would, I think, help a lot. And in case of young women, this was my first COP, and I was obviously very nervous about everything, and I did have a lot of support. So I think having people who you can talk to about your insecurities, and also those who will help you to build confidence. So I think reaching out to people who you think are your mentors and just talking to them and just give you a boost to like say, you go, you got it, you can do it. I think that helps a lot. So I think first of all, make the food accessible, and then like reach out to your mentors or even your family just to get some encouragement. And also, we need to stop working in silos and have a similar agenda and carry it with us. Yeah. Meghna, you're on mute.
Meghna, you're on mute.
Sorry, I had pressed it, but then it did not go. Thank you so much, Asmita. Very good point you have brought up that the climate advocate youth within South Asia are not so much in touch with each other. That is a major roadblock, I must say, especially with everything that went on during for our COI also this time. It just for me it just showed that how much lack of unity we have, and this is something that we really need to work on. At least I am very hopeful that women, the young women like us, we are there for each other. When I asked around that, okay, who was there in COP, there were so many people who came to me, okay, I was there. So I was very happy to note this. So maybe there is definitely a scope for collaboration and working in solidarity. We have already mentioned so many times the word solidarity. I think it is important that we take these lessons ahead forward for the next COP. Aruj has raised her hand. I would like to invite Aruj to please ask her question. Please unmute yourself, Aruj, and ask your question.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much, Meghna, for giving me this opportunity to share my views as well. I have been listening to Mahnoor and Asmita, and of course Meghna, and you all of you are like amazing. I would like to share that I was there at COP for the very first time this year at COP 29 as well. And Asmita, I fully agree with you. What I was what I observed, please correct me if any one of you can correct me. Uh, it was more like what felt, or what I have thought about, like before going to COP, that these things will be there and sort of. But my imaginations were a bit. What I can say, my experience was a bit disappointing, because what I thought, or what I realized, that it's a conference business. I don't know, I don't know. But everyone was like there, and everyone was giving the souvenirs, the plastic goods were there, and there are a lot of papers, and there are some pavilions who like discourage these souvenir sort of like thing, and they were like giving and trying to make people like online. And what I also feel like, what Azerbaijan government did a great job, but for the food court, the prices were like triple. Because I was trying to add to Asmita's point, because I have been to different restaurants for food. But the restaurants or the food court available in Azerbaijan, they were selling things at like three times more cost. And I just shared my thoughts with the one of the organizers and the volunteers teams as well, that please do communicate these things. And this is what I was like trying to say here. And what I also felt that there were a lot of like women, there were a lot of like female representation, but it was not enough. I guess, because if I talk about like my country, Pakistan, 51% of the population is like women. And there at COP, you can say 80% representations were from male side, and 20% were from female side. So till the time, if we want to bring climate justice, and if we want to bring climate equality or equity, we usually talk about, then we have to make it sure that women representation is equivalent to their population slot as well. And governments should like realize this. So these were just the points. Not I didn't have any question, but these were my points, or some my submissions to young girls like sitting in front of me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aruj, and we really appreciate the points that you have made here. Um, and congratulations for making it to COP. It was your first time. I hope that you'll have many more such opportunities, and you'll have better experience going ahead. Um, Maybe we can sit with Matilda, and we can think of what we can do regarding the food prices, because it's not accessible for the global south. Despite all the inclusivity, if you keep us hungry, that is not how things are going to work. So yeah, this is like a one big lesson for COP. Marwa, if you are still here and if you can speak, I would like to know your thoughts on what can COP do better.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. I actually listened to all of you, and I think you address all this stuff, like you discuss about inclusivity, about accessibility. The most important point was about the food prices, and also, of course, unity. Having we all have to come together and work closely and jointly to make a difference. All global South, specifically women from global South. But one thing I observed during this COP, which was yes, we had a lot of voices from even most vulnerable communities, and yes, they heard, but they truly not consider in shaping climate policy. So, for the next scope in Brazil, we need to ensure that the voices of these most vulnerable communities are not just heard, but also these talking should consider in shaping climate policy, and we need to ensure that to create a space where these vulnerable communities can share their needs and priorities directly to the negotiators, and they should highlight the reality they face on the ground. Because during this COP, I witnessed that when a person on the ground and they started talking about the fact they are living on the ground, then negotiators somehow they influence and they want to really take some right decisions. So in the next scope, we have to provide more opportunities for the direct impacted individuals, that they can share their experience and also what priority they have directly to the real negotiators. And also, one thing else that I always say is that we need action, because this scope and COP before this was just empty words and promises, specifically for global South. So we need action, and action should. We need action right now, because we cannot wait until they feel that yes, climate crisis is real and everyone is impacted. Because every single day in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, India, many different places of the globe, like in Africa, many people lost their life just because they didn't want to take real action, and they just basing with these empty words and promises. So maybe this year we have to start like a platform to encourage every people, especially those who are very impacted by climate change, to put pressure on the global north, that see, of course, you every year you come at COP and discussing about different issues and different topics, but we are very very tired of your speaking. We really need action, because action is something else and your word and promises is something else. So yes, we need action right now. So let's try our best for the next COP, and we should have a very concrete we need a concrete plan to finally make a difference at next scope, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah, we hope so. Because this year I was at the World Water Week, and there was one young guy who was wearing a T-shirt with a quote written on it, written that I have that you have been negotiating longer than I have been living. So, so that is the kind of disappointment that the youth is carrying. Which is true. It's been
Mm,
29 years. Like in the next few years, all the youth who come under the under 35 age category, they all will be
yeah,
living, like the negotiations are going to go on way before they were born. So
yeah,
it's time that the status quo changes, and that is what the global south demands. It demands actions, and especially with the kind of with everything that went on regarding NCQG and everything, I think the global south is pretty disappointed, and it's high time that we come together and form a collective voice and ensure that
yeah.
voices reach. But then again, there comes about, where do we send our voices to? Because there is a lack of info. We don't even know who to reach out to. Who is the person to reach out to? So there is, it's so weird that COP is such an expensive conference, yet I really feel it's not very systematic, and it's not managed very well in order to extract the best out of these few days where the entire world, everybody who is climate conscious is coming together. I think wonderful things can be extracted out of such an event, but that does not take place.
Yeah.
But yes, hope, we all are hoping, and we all will find ways to ensure that as youth we can come together, and women of Global South we can come together and make sure that we can have um, some marked and absolutely strong voices, or strong actions and strong demands placed in front of the committee. Having said that, I don't want to take any further time because I know it's very late in Nepal now. So I am just going to wrap this up. This has been an incredibly amazing conversation and discussion, and I'm very, very thankful to all our panelists for sharing their insights, and to everybody who joined today's discussion. South Asia Young Women in Water is committed to amplifying South Asian youth voices in global water forums and also hopefully in climate change. But we hope today that this session has sparked some meaningful reflections, and we hope that you will be inspired to have certain ideas for action. And if you do get that, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar series. Thank you so much.
Have a nice time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marwa.
Thank
Thank you. Have a
you.
nice
Bye.
day,
Good night.
everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.